Tomorrow.
Thursday. Or if you want to try and have, well, it's already in evidence, if you just don't want them here when it's played. I'm not telling you how to run your case, I'm just giving you options. So, I know you said you had to get all that evidence in today with whoever your witness is, and you were going to play this later anyway. So,
Well, I was only going to play it later because I had to do redactions at lunchtime, and then I had to give the defense an opportunity to review them.
I know, and they want to hear the whole
Let me
thing.
see if Detective Toyota is available on Thursday.
Okay. You want to do that now, or do you want to wait? Why
Yes.
don't you do that now?
So that way I can just keep
send it
going.
home. Yeah.
Yes.
No, we're in the middle of this testimony.
No, we're in the middle of his testimony, so, well, Detective Toyota's back in the courtroom. We are in the middle of his direct examination, and he has told me that he is available on Thursday, so I'm asking to stop his direct examination. He's very well aware of his obligations as a witness on the stand, and I will recall him at the appropriate time on Thursday.
Okay. And you know the rules, you can't talk about the case while they're remote.
I do.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
See you Thursday.
Thank you.
Now, before we bring the jury in, my understanding some comments were made during this break that were directed at defense counsel, particularly Ms. Curtis. I will not tolerate that. I will not tolerate that in this courtroom. Ms. Curtis is only doing her job. If it happens again, you'll be removed from the courtroom. I understand this is a very emotionally charged case, and I can appreciate that. But there's some lines have to be drawn. And the line that has to be drawn is right now. I do not, and this applies to any, if there's somebody here who doesn't like what the state's doing, comments to the state as well. That's going to be the last time there's any comments made like that. If it happens again, and if it happens in my presence, then you're in a contempt situation. So a word to the wise at this point is sufficient. Please bring in the jury.
So are we going to give them a reason why he's disappearing?
What's that?
Are we going to give them a reason why?
No,
he's
we just let it go.
Okay.
Just let it go. You think we'd be done by 4:45?
Yes.
Okay. This your last witness of the day?
No.
Okay,
I had-
all right, I'm just saying, as long as you... Please be seated, state, call your next witness.
The state calls Detective Jonathan Zeller.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Jonathan Zeller, Z-E-L-L-E-R.
Detective, please have a seat, make yourself comfortable, get up close to the microphone, state, you may inquire whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Detective Zeller.
Good afternoon.
Where do you work?
City of Miramar Police Department.
How long have you worked at the City of Miramar Police Department?
For 18 years.
What's your job there?
I'm a detective in the homicide unit.
How many years have you been a detective in the homicide unit?
9 years.
How many homicides have you investigated in those 9 years as a detective?
Quite a few.
What experience do you have in law enforcement prior to becoming a detective?
None. You mean before I was a police
Before
officer?
Miramar Police Department, yeah.
I had no
Okay.
prior law enforcement.
When you first started at the Miramar Police Department, were you automatically a detective or did you have
No.
a different job?
Well, the function there was road patrol officer.
Until you became a detective?
Correct.
Were you involved in the investigation of a case dated April 25th, 2014?
Yes.
How were you involved?
I was called out to respond to a stabbing that had occurred.
Do you remember the address that you were called out to?
I would need to look, but it's 8516 Claridge Drive, I think it is.
What did you do when you got there?
Well, before I got there, while I was on my way, I was informed that
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
What did you do when you got to the crime scene?
I had telephoned Detective Bertrand to let him know that we had a victim that was stabbed, and ultimately...
Objection, hearsay.
Uh,
said. It's just the exact same thing he was gonna say.
Oh, sustained, yes. Go ahead.
You contacted Detective Bertrand, you're at the crime scene, and what do?
I requested the assistance of Detective Bertrand.
Okay, so, and the investigation begins.
Correct, yes.
During the course of the investigation, did you have different duties and obligations?
No, my duty at the time was to start gathering evidence or start trying to find witnesses.
And from the beginning of the case, April 25th, 2014, until there was an arrest, was it an ongoing investigation?
Yes,
Do you remember being involved in the part of the investigation that located the vehicle the suspects were using on April 25th, 2014?
yes,
Were you successful in locating that vehicle?
yes.
When you located the vehicle, where was it?
It was in the parking lot of a community located in Miami Gardens.
And did you document how you located the vehicle?
It was Detective Toyota who located the vehicle and informed us that he had found the car, and we had gone down there, responded down there, and found the car.
Do you recall the date?
I believe it was May 1st or May 2nd, if I can refresh my memory.
Yes, if referring to your report will refresh your recollection regarding the date the Chevy Impala was located, please let us know.
May 2nd, 2014.
I'm showing defense counsel what's been marked as State Exhibit I for identification. May I approach the witness?
Yes.
Detective Zeller, I'm showing you what's been marked as State Exhibit I for identification. It is a composite exhibit of 8 pages. Do you recognize State Exhibit I for identification?
Yes, I did.
What is State Exhibit I for identification?
This is where these are pictures of the suspect vehicle, where it was located in Miami Gardens.
And do the photographs accurately show us what you saw on May 2nd, 2014 when you got to the vehicle?
Yes.
At this time, the state moves what's been marked as State Exhibit I for identification into evidence.
State's none.
No, okay.
So admitted.
Okay, permission to publish?
Yes.
Okay.
I am just going to remind you, ladies and gentlemen, that all these exhibits that are being marked and introduced will all be sent back with you to the jury room. Let's state, you may continue.
Detective Zeller, I want to draw your attention to July 24th, 2014. At that time, was this case still an ongoing investigation?
I believe it was, yes.
Do you recall on July 24th, 2014, interviewing Demetrius Elder with Detective Stephen Toyota?
Yes, I was there with him.
Do you see the person in the courtroom today that you interviewed?
Yes.
Could you please point to him and identify him by an article of clothing?
Sitting to my left, and he's wearing a black shirt.
No further questions at this time. Thank you.
Defense?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
One of the jobs that Detective Bertrand asked you to do was to complete warrants for phone records, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you did warrants for Mr. Stanley's phone records, correct?
I think it was a warrant, I believe it was a subpoena.
Stan, for Mr. Stanley's phone records?
If I recall correctly, yes.
Okay, Mr. Williams, Marlon Williams?
Right.
Okay. And you did a subpoena for Mr. McMath's phone records, correct?
I believe yes.
Okay. Do you recall receiving those records?
I believe we did.
Okay, and do you recall reviewing them?
If the records came into me, they were forwarded on to Detective Bertrand for his review.
Okay, so you didn't review them?
I don't remember reviewing them.
Okay. You did not do a subpoena to get Mr. Knight's phone records, correct?
I don't recall. I'll have to, can I look back at my report to?
Yes.
No.
You testified about going to the location where the Impala was.
Correct.
Okay. And did you take any photographs of the area where it was found, or just the vehicle itself?
Just, those pictures are the only pictures that I took.
Okay. And there were some items collected at that time, correct?
Not in Miami Gardens, no.
Okay. Once the vehicle was towed away and taken into possession of the Miramar police, there were items taken out of it, correct?
Eventually, yes, subsequent to
Okay.
the search warrant, yes.
Were you present for that?
I don't remember if I was or not.
Okay. Did you ever take possession of any of the items from the vehicle?
No.
You testified that you went to the hospital on July 24th of 2014, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And at that time, you spoke to Mr. Elder, correct?
In conjunction with Detective Toyota, yes.
Okay. You had actually attempted to see him the day before, correct?
Yes, we tried.
He was not able to speak to you on that day, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Because of his condition, correct?
Whatever he had, he could not talk the first day that we made contact with him.
Okay. Now, you didn't ask anybody at the hospital what was going on with him, correct? His condition?
No.
And you knew at the time that this case involved an alleged physical altercation, correct?
Correct.
Okay. You also knew that Ms. Jimbolas was claiming that Mr. Elder punched and kicked Mr. Knight, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you didn't think it was relevant to talk to anyone at the hospital as to why he was there and why he couldn't talk?
No. No.
Judge, may I have a moment?
Yeah.
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. You can step down, you're excused.
Thank you, sir.
Call your next witness, please.
Yeah, yes, Your Honor. The state calls Officer Melanie Peluso.
Raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your full name, spell your last name for the record.
Melanie Peluso, P-E-L-U-S-O.
Please make yourself comfortable. You're close to the microphone. State whenever you're ready.
Excuse me.
Good afternoon, Officer Peluso.
Good afternoon.
Where do you work?
Miramar Police Department.
How long have you worked at the Miramar Police Department?
I've been there 10 years now.
And what is your job?
Right now, I'm a police officer.
What was your job before you were a police officer?
I was a crime scene technician.
How many years have you been working at the Miramar Police Department?
I did crime scene for 7, and I've been a police officer for 3 now.
On April 25th, 2014, what was your job at the Miramar Police Department?
I was a crime scene technician.
And were you involved in the investigation of this case?
Yes, I was.
What was your involvement?
I was called out to process the crime scene.
And did you do that?
Yes, I did.
When you process a crime scene, what are the important steps you have to take to do it correctly?
You have to, I took photographs, you document the whole crime scene. If there's DNA, you process for DNA, process for fingerprints, video document everything, and so forth.
Video documenting. Does the quality of that depend on the time that you're doing the video?
Yeah, especially if it's at night, it might be hard to capture certain things because the lighting is not well.
And when you were dispatched to this scene, was it daytime or nighttime?
It was at night.
Do you remember the address that you were dispatched to?
I was dispatched to Miramar Parkway and the intersection of Terra Road.
And when you got to this crime scene, did you document it?
Yes, I did.
How
So
did
I
you do
document the street, by the photographs, I did like the street sign and so forth, all the area. And we also did, we used a camera for video documentation and a 360 Panascan camera also.
I'm showing defense counsel what's been marked as State Exhibit J and State Exhibit K for identification. No, it's good. I'm asking for IT. May I approach the witness?
Yes.
Officer Peluso, I'm showing you what's been marked as State Exhibit J for identification. It is a composite exhibit of 65 pages. Will you please take a look at State Exhibit J for identification and let me know if you recognize it?
These are the photographs that I took.
Okay. What date did you take these photographs?
4/25/2014,
And where were you when you took them?
8516 Clare Ridge Drive.
Do the photographs accurately reflect what you saw when you went to 8516 Claridge Drive on April 25th, 2014?
Yes, they do.
At this time, the state moves what's been marked as State Exhibit J for identification into evidence.
State 10.
Okay.
I'm showing you what's been marked as State Exhibit K for identification. Do you recognize State Exhibit K?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
It's a copy of the photographs.
This is a disc.
It's a disc, it's on the disc.
At this time, the state moves what's been marked as State Exhibit K into evidence.
State 11.
Yes.
Okay. So moved.
At this time, the state seeks to publish State Exhibit 10 to the jury.
Can you split them up as well,
Yes.
please?
Officer Peluso, you also told us that a crime scene can be documented by 360.
It's a 360-degree Panascan camera that we use.
I'm showing defense counsel what's been marked as State Exhibit L for identification. May I approach?
Yes.
Officer Peluso, I'm showing you what's been marked as State Exhibit L for identification. Do you recognize State Exhibit L?
Yes, I do.
What is it?
It's a DVD of the Panascan 360 that I took of the crime scene.
And what date did you take it?
4/25/2014.
At this time, the state moves what's been marked as State Exhibit L for identification into evidence.
State's 12.
Okay. So moved.
Officer Peluso, we saw the photographs you took of the crime scene. Did you also collect evidence from the crime scene?
Yes, I did.
And when you collect evidence, how do you take it from the crime scene?
Once I take the pictures, then I collect it by putting it into a paper brown evidence bag or an envelope. And then I will put the evidence in there, and then I have to fill out a property receipt, fill out the bag. I then seal the bag, I put evidence tape on it. I then sign with my initials and date it for chain of custody purposes.
I'm showing you, I'm going to show defense counsel what's been marked as State Exhibit M for identification. May I approach the witness?
Yes.
Officer Peluso, I'm showing you what's been marked as State Exhibit M for identification. Do you recognize State Exhibit M?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
My handwriting and my signature is on it. Right.
And is this evidence that you collected from the crime scene?
Yes, it
And how
is.
do you know that?
This is the broken beer bottle, because it's dated in the time I collected it.
There's a sticker on the front of the brown bag. Can you, 1 second. Judge, at this time, the state moves what's been marked as State Exhibit M into evidence.
Case 13.
Remove the objection.
And that'll be admitted into evidence over defense objection.
Okay. Officer Peluso, there is a orange mark on the front of the exhibit. Can you tell us what that means?
It's fire hazard, that means that there's lead on it.
Mark it, because I want to open it and show it to them.
Yes.
Can I have scissors, please? May I approach the witness, Judge? Okay. Officer Peluso, I'd like for you to publish, well, Judge, permission to publish State Exhibit 13 to the jury through Officer Peluso.
Yes.
Okay, I'd like for you to open the exhibit and then publish what you can to the jury. And then please explain to us what's in the bag.
These are the broken beer bottle.
Okay, and what's inside that box?
The pieces from it, so it's the spout, neck, and all the pieces.
Okay, do you remember the color?
I believe it was it's brown.
Go ahead, you can, yeah. Thank you. I'm showing defense counsel what's been marked as State Exhibit N for identification. State Exhibit O for identification. State Exhibit P for identification. And State Exhibit Q for identification. May I approach the witness?
Yes.
Officer Peluso, I'm showing you what's been marked as State Exhibit N for identification. Do you recognize State Exhibit N?
Yes, it is.
How do you recognize it?
I collected it, my handwriting was on it, I signed and sealed it.
At this time, the state moves what's been marked as State Exhibit N for identification into evidence.
Case 14.
No objection.
Don't move. Go ahead.
What is State Exhibit 14?
It's a bath towel, and there's blood stains on it.
Okay. I'm showing you,
Objection to the testimony that there's blood on it. There's been no evidence of.
To that extent, I'll sustain the objection. At this point, there hasn't been any evidence.
permission to publish State Exhibit 14 to the jury. Can you open it up,
I'm
please?
sorry, 1 second. Did you say something else?
Oh, I was just saying she was a suspect.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
I'd like to publish the exhibit. So
Go ahead.
Officer Peluso, can you please open the exhibit and show the jury the towel?
Hold on 1 second, stop 1 second.
She's not cutting it at the top. She's at the bottom. See?
It just needs to easily be taped.
So you want her to cut at the top? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Officer Paluso, can you, would you mind just cutting the top? Yeah.
Is that okay? Watch what she's doing. Yes, okay.
You want me to take it out?
Yes, I'd like you to publish the exhibit to the jury. Okay, Judge Payne, Officer Paluso, stand and
Yeah,
then.
you can stand and
Thank you. I'm also showing you what's been, I'm not gonna ask you. I'm showing you what's been marked as State Exhibit O for identification. Do you recognize State Exhibit O?
Yes, I do. I collected it, it's sneakers.
At this time, the state moves what's been marked as State Exhibit O for identification.
The state's 15. No objection.
seal these up.
I'm showing you, may I approach the witness?
Go ahead.
I'm showing you, Officer Paluso, what's been marked as State Exhibit P for identification. Do you recognize State Exhibit P?
Yes, I do.
At this time, the state moves where did you collect State Exhibit P from?
8516 3rd Drive.
The state moves what's been marked as State Exhibit P for identification into evidence.
No objection.
Okay?
And I'm showing you what's been marked as State Exhibit.
State 16.
I'm showing you what's been marked as State Exhibit Q for identification. Do you recognize State Exhibit Q?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
I collected it in my handwriting about it, but
At this time, the state moves what's been marked as State Exhibit Q for identification into evidence.
State
No.
17.
No objection.
Okay, let me have them marked. Officer Paluso, when you collected these items, where did you take them to?
they go to Property and Evidence Bureau, and they're put into property and evidence.
And then at some point, did you examine them at the Miramar Crime Lab?
Yes, I did.
What date was that?
Can I look on the report to make sure?
Yes, if refreshing your recollection by looking at your report will help you answer that question, please do so and then let me know when you're done. For the date you examined the items at the Miramar Crime Lab.
Okay.
What was the date?
It was on 4/30/2014.
Okay.
Sean, is it okay if I publish these before you make them?
Keep that in mind.
Okay. Okay.
16. Yes. 17.
Okay. I'm showing, Officer Paluso, I'm showing you what's been marked, what's in evidence, a State Exhibit 16, permission to publish State Exhibit 16 to the jury.
Yes.
Yeah.
Officer, see if you can cut them from the top as well.
Yes. Sorry about that. May I stand?
Judge, may Officer Paluso stand there to
Yes.
publish
Yes.
the exhibit? Yeah. And I'm also showing you State Exhibit 17 in evidence and permission for Officer Paluso to publish State Exhibit 17 to the jury.
Okay.
Officer Paluso, when you examined the items you collected in evidence at the Miramar Police Department Crime Lab on April 30th, 2014, did you document it?
Yes, I did. I took photographs of it.
I don't think you need the photographs anymore. Before we talk about the photographs, can you tell us the exhibits we just saw, the items of clothing, who did they belong to?
The victim.
I'm showing defense counsel what's been marked, is State Exhibit R for identification and State Exhibit S for identification.
But before there's the next question, I'm going to object, can you just write that next one?
Hold on 1 second.
Just before there's.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to sustain the defense objection to the identification of the exhibit as being from the victim, and I'm going to ask you to disregard the answer given by the officer with respect to whose clothing they were. Go ahead, you may continue.
Officer Paluso, did you collect any other clothing at the crime scene?
I did collect a baseball cap.
Okay. Did you collect any other shirt at the crime scene?
No.
Did you collect any other pair of pants at the crime scene?
No.
Did you document, Officer Paluso, where you collected these items that I'm asking you about, the clothing? Where did you collect those items from?
The clothing was on the east side of the lawn on 8516 Clare Ridge Drive.
Any other clothing found there?
No.
May I approach the witness?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's been marked as State Exhibit R for identification. It is a composite exhibit of 87 pages. Do you recognize State Exhibit R?
Yes.
Okay. How do you recognize State Exhibit R?
These are the photographs that I took
On what date?
on 4/30/2014.
And I'm sure, at this time, the state moves what's been marked as State Exhibit R for identification into evidence.
618.
I have some, can we kind of go side by side?
Comes in with no objection. No objection.
Except for 2014.
I got it.
Officer Paluso, I'm showing you what's been marked as State Exhibit S for identification. Do you recognize State Exhibit S?
Yes, it's a CD of the photographs.
That artwork we just looked at?
Yes.
Okay. At this time, the state moves what's been marked as State Exhibit S for identification into evidence.
States 19.
Same objection to the sidebar.
Permission to publish State Exhibit 18 to the jury. Composite exhibit of 87 pages.
First of all, that exhibit's coming in evidence over defense objection. As elaborated at sidebar. Go ahead and publish.
I'm showing defense counsel what's been marked as State Exhibit T for identification and State Exhibit U for identification. May I approach the witness?
Yes.
I'm showing you, Officer Paluso, what's been marked as State Exhibit T for identification. Do you recognize State Exhibit T?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
These are the swabs that I took, my handwriting and signatures on it.
What date did you take the swabs?
4/30/2014.
At this time, the state moves what's been marked as State Exhibit T for identification into evidence.
States 20.
Renew from the motion.
Same motion?
Yes.
Okay. Over the defense objection, it'll be admitted into evidence.
I'm showing, Officer Paluso, I'm showing you what's been marked as State Exhibit U for identification. Do you recognize State Exhibit U?
Yes, I do.
How do you recognize it?
My handwriting and my signature is on it.
At this time, the state moves what's been marked as State Exhibit U into evidence.
States 21.
No objection.
So moved.
Can you tell us what State Exhibit 21 is?
It's oral swabs taken from Demetrius elder.
Okay, and who took them?
I did.
Do you see the person in the courtroom today whose swabs you took?
Yes, I do.
Could you please point to him and identify him by an article of clothing?
He's sitting over there and he's wearing a black, I believe, jacket.
And let me show you again State Exhibit 20 in evidence. The swab from the broken beer bottle spout, is that the broken beer bottle spout that's in evidence?
Yes, it is.
Did you, Officer Peluso, have any other involvement in this case that I have not asked you about?
No.
Thank you. No further questions.
Defense?
So you're a law enforcement officer as of now?
Yes, I
As you
am.
testified today, correct?
Yes.
But going back in 2014, you were not a sworn law enforcement officer.
Correct.
Your title was crime scene technician, correct?
Yes.
And that was a non-law enforcement position?
Yes.
In essence, was a civilian position?
Yes, it was.
Okay. Now, and that was with Miramar?
Yes.
And you're still with Miramar?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Does Miramar have crime scene detectives?
No, we do not.
Okay, so everybody within, let me rephrase, are there other crime scene technicians besides yourself, or were there other crime scene technicians besides yourself within Miramar?
Yes, there's other ones.
Okay, were they all in a civilian capacity such as yourself back then?
Yes, we don't have any sworn.
Okay. There are agencies that have sworn crime scene detectives.
Objection
correct?
relevance.
It's relevant.
No, it's not.
Objection
Okay.
relevance. and-
Sustained.
Your duties as a crime scene technician were, as you said, kind of photograph, take swabs. I wrote down collect evidence.
Yes.
Did I write that down
Yes.
accurately? Okay. When you arrived on scene, was Detective Bertrand already on scene?
Yes, he was.
Okay. And did you know he was the lead, or when you arrived on scene, did you learn that he was the lead?
Yes.
Yes to which one? You knew
Yes, that
prior
I knew that when I arrived, I knew he was the lead.
Okay. So as him being the lead, was he instructing you on, I want this photographed, I want that photographed?
No, he basically just briefed me of what was going on, and then I started processing the crime scene.
So your job is to photograph everything, correct?
Yes.
You don't know, because you're just arriving on scene, what may or may not be relevant or important, so you document everything.
Correct.
Okay, so if you're documenting everything, to you, does it matter if Detective Bertrand informs you of whatever theory or whatever he informed you of?
No, I mean, I was taking pictures of everything I saw. Unless they see something particular they might want something else taken of, I would do it, but I take photographs of everything.
Okay, so, but you just said, if I heard you right, you said Detective Bertrand kind of told me what's going on, or what happened.
Briefed me on what occurred, yes.
Okay, but in your eyes, it doesn't matter what happened because you're documenting everything?
Correct.
Am I hearing you correctly?
Yes.
There was a vehicle on scene, correct, when you arrived?
Correct.
Okay. Do you know if that vehicle was moved from where you understood the actual incident or altercation to take place?
That's what I understood.
Where was that vehicle when you arrived? Let me ask you this. Was it at the intersection of Tara and Miramar Parkway at the stop sign?
No, it was not.
Okay. Did you move the vehicle away from that intersection?
I did not move
Okay.
it.
Was the owner of that vehicle, a woman by the name of Wendy Gonvola, still on scene?
I believe she was.
Did you have any contact with her?
Not at that moment, I did not.
You never spoke with her, correct?
Yes, not on scene.
You don't process her vehicle, correct?
I do not.
Did you ever go to a residence a few houses down that belonged to a gentleman by the name of Corey McMath?
Can you, I don't know, I would know the address, not the name.
Okay. 8516 Claire H. Drive.
Yes.
Did you go to that residence?
Yes, I went to the outside of it, yes.
Okay, did you photograph the outside of it?
Yes, I did.
Okay, was there a group of people outside there still?
I believe there was people near the driveway.
Okay, how many?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay. Did you see any alcohol there?
I don't know, I wasn't focusing on that, so I couldn't tell
Did
you.
you take photographs
There's photographs of area of the area, yes.
of the house specifically though?
Just like surrounding photograph of it, not
Okay, so-
not in it.
Okay.
I didn't go in it.
Let me be a little bit more clear. Not inside the house. Did you ever take photographs of inside the garage?
No, I did not.
Okay. From the scene, you were on the scene, and tell me if I'm wrong, the 24th and 25th, you only did photographs
And collect all the evidence.
and collect, but you didn't do any swabbing?
No, not on scene.
Okay. You didn't do any swabbing on the 24th or the 25th?
Yes, not on scene.
Okay. And so the 24th and 25th, your involvement was on scene only?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, you don't go to other locations and do any work?
And this time I was on scene and that was it.
Okay. You did attend the autopsy?
I did.
Okay. You don't take any photographs while attending the autopsy,
Yeah,
correct?
we don't do that anymore.
Okay. Do you collect or take into your possession items from the autopsy or from the medical examiner's office?
Yes.
And that would have been, I think what was just introduced, the DNA or some fingernail swab with blood cards of the deceased?
Yes.
Okay, and then that is actually handed to you because you're the crime scene technician responsible for collecting the evidence?
Correct.
Okay. Do you recall if Detective Bertrand was at the autopsy?
Yes, he was.
Was any other officers there?
No.
Okay, so even though the lead detective's there, you're tasked with taking care, custody, and control of any of those items?
Correct.
Any of those actual swabs or evidence that you took possession of from the autopsy, you don't actually collect that, you just take possession of it?
Correct. They were already sealed when I collected them.
Okay. So it's
I took
sealed?
custody of them.
Okay. So somebody hands it to you, and then you kind of sign off that you're now in custody of those
Yes.
items?
And
Am I saying that right?
yes, and then I fill out my property receipts. Yes. Custody.
It was you, Detective Bertrand, were there any of the other civilian capacity crime scene technicians at the autopsy?
No.
Okay. Crime scene technician Cruz was on scene as well, correct?
And the main crime scene with me, yes.
The main crime,
Yes.
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm
Yes.
jumping back,
Yeah,
sorry.
okay, it's okay.
Any other crime scene, and I'm saying it correctly, crime scene technician, right?
Yes.
Any other crime scene technicians besides you and Cruz that were on scene?
No, not that bad.
The autopsy was April 26th, if I'm correct?
It would have been that Saturday or the next day.
The next day after the 25th, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So from there, do you go immediately and put everything into the Miramar property vault?
I did go back and I put the evidence into property evidence.
Okay, and then it sits there and your next involvement, I heard you say on direct, was April 30th.
Correct.
Okay, so you, from the 26th, you put whatever you got collected into,
It goes in-
Safekeeping?
Yes,
and then it sits there until you come back on the 30th.
correct.
Okay. Now, how are you dressed on scene?
How do you dress? We
Well,
were,
let me just explain that, and I'll let you, I want you to answer. The way you're dressed now is there's no doubt you work for law enforcement.
correct.
Okay. Were you dressed similar on scene?
No, there's different uniform. I back then had black BDU pants on and a gray polo shirt that says crime scene on it.
Okay. Do you wear any protective gear?
Yes, I do. If there's biohazard stuff, I would wear a biohazard suit, so it's a white like tie-back suit, and I would put booties on, and I wear gloves, of course.
Was that done in this case?
Was it done in this case? I believe, when I collected it, no, I just had my uniform on and I was wearing gloves.
So even though there's suspect blood on some of the items you collected, you did not suit up, for lack of a better term, correct?
I did not need to, I didn't have to, I had gloves on, so.
Now, do you change out those gloves on every item of evidence you pick up, or do you wear the same gloves?
For those items,
You-
collecting them together, I believe I had the same gloves on.
Now, having the same gloves on, are you concerned at all about cross-contamination? And what I mean by that is you touch an item, you collect it, and then you touch another item, whatever may have been on the one item may have been transferred.
But objection, relevance, and can we please approach?
Objection's overruled, you can't proceed.
Do you have any concerns about cross-contamination having not changed out your gloves?
It's possible.
The swabs and the evidence that's collected, Miramar, and tell me if I'm wrong, but Miramar Police Department does not do your own in-house testing, correct?
We do not.
Okay, so whatever you may have collected and submitted ultimately goes to another agency for the actual testing?
Yes, it does.
And is that Broward Sheriff's Office?
Yes, it is.
Now, is that something that you take to Broward Sheriff's Office, or do they come and collect it from Miramar?
My swabs are, once they're submitted into our Department of Evidence, our custodians take it over to the lab.
Again, that's a non-law enforcement position, the custodians?
Yes.
Do you have any involvement in, let me back up. So BSO, Broward Sheriff's Office, is now taking possession of the items that you ultimately collected and documented, for lack of a better term, right?
Just the DNA that they want submitted for examination purposes, yes.
Okay, how many swabs did you take in this case?
There's multiple swabs that were taken, but I don't know what everything was actually submitted.
Right, do you have an exact number of how many swabs were actually taken? If you have the exact number.
Top of my head, I don't.
Okay. So all of the swabs, from what I'm hearing you say, were not taken to BSO?
They do not all go unless they want them to go.
Who's
So
they?
basically the detective, what they want examined.
Okay.
And then if you need further examination, I would be told to send it.
Okay, so are you involved in that discussion of what goes for testing and what stays and doesn't get tested? Let me
In
make
this
sure you
case,
understand. Okay. You
I
said
would give an opinion to what might be important because BSO only allows you to submit 5 at a time.
were 5 submitted?
Yes,
Okay, well, more than 5 submitted.
that I can't recall.
Okay. So you say 5 at a time. Can you do 5 one day, 5 the next day, 5 the next
Yes,
day?
you can send more.
You don't know how many, of however many swabs you took, you don't know how many got submitted.
At this point, I don't, because they could have been between different years.
So again, back to the discussion. You told me it's a lead detective's ultimate decision, is what I think I heard you say, correct?
Correct.
Okay, but are you involved in that dialogue on what gets submitted? Or are you?
Objection, asked and answered.
Sustained.
Did you have any input on what would be submitted?
Yes,
Was your input followed?
yes,
All of your input was followed?
yes.
There was a, Judge, may I approach and show a photograph that's been in evidence?
Sure. Just identify what
Sure,
it
I
is,
will.
please.
I'm gonna, if I may approach, 77 of 87 on states 18. Is that a picture of suspect number one?
Yes, it is.
Okay, now that's out and it's just a picture by itself.
Yes.
Where was that located?
It was,
Well, let me ask you
behind,
specific.
can I refer, because I don't want to be, I want to
Sure.
make sure I'm correct.
And I'm asking, was it in the camel pants?
I just want to double check. Yes, it was.
Do you do fingerprint swabbing as well? Fingerprint dusting as well?
Yes, I do.
Was that baggie in that photograph dusted for prints?
It was.
And were you able to get anything that you deemed or looked like an actual print to
I was
submit?
unable
for
to.
testing?
It's very difficult to get stuff off of the baggie.
Now, you take fingerprints on several items, correct?
Yes, I do. I did.
Okay. And so the jury knows when you dust for a fingerprint, it's really what I'm saying. You put black powder and you put a piece of tape
Yes.
and you lift the tape to see if you could get a print.
Yes.
Okay. Now, are you submitting every single one of those tapes? Or are you making a determination if it's of value or a good print or a smudge?
If there is rich detail in it, if I see something, I will submit it, yes.
Okay, so the answer is no, you do not submit every fingerprint that you attempt to lift.
If there is a print, like ridges on it, I will submit it, yes.
Okay. Now, are you looking under a microscope at that to make that determination, or are you looking at that with your naked eye?
I'm looking at it with my naked eye.
Okay. The beer bottle, did you do prints on the beer bottle?
Yes, I did.
Did you look at those prints with your naked eye?
That I can't tell you because they were, I did that with assisting with BSO.
And how about the swabbing?
I did swab the bottle.
Okay, and you swab the spout of the
Yes,
bottle?
The spout of the bottle.
Or if you're drinking the top
It
part?
would have been the spout is the top part, is what I'm referring to, so the whole like exterior, interior of the spout.
If I'm drinking, it's where my mouth will go.
Yes.
Okay. The vehicle, there was a vehicle found in Miami. Are you familiar with that vehicle?
Yes, I wasn't there though for it when it was recovered.
Okay, did you process that vehicle?
Yes, I did,
Where?
at the West Substation.
The West Substation?
As in, I'm sorry, our West Substation, it would be our police department.
Okay. And when you say you processed it, what exactly did you do to that vehicle?
Well, when I got to process it, I took some photographs and I dusted for fingerprints.
Okay, did you get any prints on any pieces of tape from there?
There was prints that were lifted and they were submitted.
Okay, from where?
Do you want me to list everything that was lifted from there?
How many prints did you take of the vehicle?
Oh, can I look?
Sure.
Make sure. There was 6 fingerprints that were lifted.
How many were submitted?
All 6.
And how about swabs?
I did not process the car for that. That was
So you just
somebody
did-
else.
You just did the photographs and prints.
Correct.
The location of those prints were driver's side or passenger side, interior, exterior?
I need to refer and I can
Okay.
tell you everything.
If you want to
If
refer to
you
the
want,
report to
can I?
refresh your memory?
Yes.
Sure.
They're all from inside the vehicle.
Driver's side or passenger side, front, back?
2 of them were lifted from the rear view mirror, 2 from the face of the radio, and there was sunglasses that were hanging from the rear view mirror, and then driver's side window in the interior part.
So no prints from front passenger door, interior, exterior?
No,
Front passenger window, interior, exterior?
I only did the interior. I can only do the interior.
Okay.
There's someone else that processed the
Okay. Nothing from the front passenger side, then. Let me put it that way. It's just as a blanket statement.
Correct.
Okay. There was a T-shirt that you photographed. No, I'm sorry, there was a T-shirt that you placed into evidence. The T-shirt looked like it was kind of old cut, not like how a T-shirt would be if you just bought it,
Are we
correct?
going back?
Yeah, I'm joking.
Okay.
I'm going back.
Okay. You're referring to at the crime scene, right?
Yeah.
That one. I know what you're talking about.
I'm referring to 16.
Okay. I'm sorry, what was your question?
It looked to me like it was cut. Is that accurate?
Yes, I did not
You
cut
did
it though.
not cut it.
I did
Okay.
not cut it.
You don't know who cut it or how it got cut. I know you can take a guess, but I don't want you to guess. You
do,
don't
but I'm
know.
not going to speculate.
There was some money I saw also. You processed besides photographing the money?
Yes.
Okay. How many of those, which bills, or not which, but how many of the bills?
The
All of them?
one that had the suspected blood stain was swabbed.
Okay. And we say suspect, because you never actually do any confirmation test to know for certain that it is
Correct.
blood?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Judge Graham, brief comment?
Sure.
Was there any suspect blood on the beer bottle?
There was not.
States 13 was what was placed into evidence as the broken beer bottle.
Correct.
Okay. There's no suspect blood, but you have a biohazard sticker.
Yeah, that's when I stated that, because I believe at the time when I collected it, we weren't sure, so there was a biohazard sticker placed on it.
Okay. And it just remains on?
Yes.
Just got one more brief one, sorry. And the only swab was the spout, correct?
Correct.
Nothing further, thank you.
Redirect?
Yes, Your Honor. Officer Peluso, does it matter to you when you were a crime scene technician, whether you were sworn or not, when you were doing your job?
No, we did not.
How many crime scenes have you processed when you were?
Relevance.
Well, you're talking into the floor, I can't hear you.
Relevance.
Overruled.
How many crime scenes did you process when you were a crime scene technician before you became a sworn law enforcement officer?
Like over hundreds.
Mr. Urban asked you some questions about processing evidence on the 24th and the 25th. I just want to be clear, when were you called out to the crime scene to begin your crime scene processing?
It was on the 24th. I'm sorry, it was on the 25th I was called.
And the items and evidence that are swabs that you took and you collected those swabs?
Yes, I did.
And the other items of evidence that we admitted already, that we have photographs of and we saw, you collected and you put into evidence?
Yes, I did.
Do you, Officer Peluso, have any evidence of cross-contamination in this case?
No.
Thank you. No further questions.
Okay, you're excused. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to adjourn for today. No? I told you 4:45, we're stopping.
I have one short witness, Judge.
Yeah, okay, go ahead. Call your witness.
Christopher Komar.
Raise your right hand. You swear affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Hi, my name is Christopher Sase Komar. My middle name is spelled S-A-S-E. My last name is spelled C-O-M as in Mary, A-R.
Okay, sir, make yourself comfortable. Get close to the microphone. State.
Yes, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Mr. Komar.
Good afternoon.
Where do you work?
I work for the Broward County Sheriff's Office Crime Lab, and I work in the DNA unit.
How long have you worked at the Broward County Sheriff's Office Crime Lab?
I've worked with this agency since January of 2000, so it's been over 18 years.
What is your job?
I'm a DNA specialist. I'm a criminalist 3. That means that I'm a person that specializes in the detection of body fluids or body fluid stains. I also can analyze evidence that may have come in contact with a person through touch and using a method to detect touch DNA. And if I suspect that either blood or tissue is present on an item, I can develop a DNA profile and make comparisons to individuals named in the case to determine who could or could not be the source of the DNA that I detected.
Your entire time in the Broward County Sheriff's Office, have you been in the DNA unit?
Yes, my entire career, actually.
Okay. Prior to joining the Broward County Sheriff's Office Crime Laboratory, do you have any other experience as a DNA analyst?
Yes, I do.
Please tell us about that.
I work with the FDLE, that stands for the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, and I worked at the Tallahassee Regional Operations Center, located in Tallahassee, Florida. And I worked with that agency from 1995 to 2000. And in that capacity, I trained at the FDLE to become a forensic examiner in the area of forensic serology, which is the identification of body fluids, as well as DNA analysis.
Prior to becoming a DNA analyst, please tell us about your education.
I have a bachelor's degree from Florida State University. I earned that degree in 1993 in the area of biology. I also have a master's degree in forensic science. I earned that degree from the University of Central Florida in 2014.
Do you, Mr. Komar, as a DNA analyst, have to participate in continuing education?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
The continuing education component is required by the FBI Quality Assurance Document. That is a document that's used to audit our laboratory, and it also follows, we also follow the ASCLD lab. ASCLD stands for the American Society of Crime Lab Directors Laboratory Accreditation Board guidelines for continuing education. So I have to take a minimum of 8 hours every year in order to comply with these regulations.
I want to draw your attention to lab number 14-07837. Are you familiar with that lab number?
Yes, that's the laboratory number assigned to this case.
Okay. And before we talk about that, can you tell us, Mr. Komar, have you previously conducted DNA analysis?
Yes, since 1997.
How many items do you think you've conducted a DNA analysis on?
That's a tough one. I analyze between 150 to about 250 cases a year, and each case can range from 2 samples to 25 samples. So I easily run several hundred samples a year.
Have you been called to testify in court as an expert before?
I have testified in the state of Florida, including my time at the FDLE throughout the state of Florida in the area of forensic serology and DNA analysis.
Drawing your attention to lab number 14-07837. May I approach the witness?
Yes.
I'm showing you what's in evidence, Mr. Komar, as State Exhibit 20. Do you recognize State Exhibit 20?
Yes, I do. I can identify it by the BSO lab number, which is on the label, and it's 14-07837, and by my initials, CSC, and the date that I sealed this package with red evidence tape on 5/21/2014.
Okay, and I'm showing you what's in evidence as State Exhibit 21. Do you recognize State Exhibit 21?
Yes, I do. Again, I can identify the item by the BSO lab number, which is 14-07837, and by my initial CSC, and the date that I sealed it, which was 6/3/2014.
Okay. Did you conduct a DNA analysis on item number 1 in State Exhibit 20?
Yes.
And did you compare that to State Exhibit 21?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Before we talk about your analysis, explain to us what is the first thing you did when you received these items?
First thing I do whenever I receive an item is to verify that the evidence is marked in a way that is identifiable. The evidence has to be marked with either an item description or an item number, and in this case, both were present on the package. The item descriptions are listed on the outside container to describe generally where the evidence came from. I did not collect the evidence in this case. It was collected for me, and what this package contains is a series of swabs. And in addition to that, I have to make sure that the item is intact, meaning that the seals are not breached and the item is whole, meaning that it didn't appear to be tampered with. And my examination always starts with the forensic items first when practicable, meaning if the question sample, which is the forensic evidence from the crime scene, came in at the same time that a standard from a person, either their blood or buccal swab, their reference sample came in at the same time, I always start with the question samples first when practicable.
Okay, you just said a word. What is a buccal swab?
A buccal swab are cells collected from the inside of a person's mouth along their cheeks. And that's primarily used as a reference for a known sample that is originated from a person that's used to represent that person's genetic makeup.
I want to draw your attention to item G8 in
Okay.
your crime laboratory analysis report.
Okay?
What is that item? What is that item?
That item was described to me as a swab from a broken beer bottle spout.
Okay. And is that the item that you told us you identified in State Exhibit 20, item number 1?
There are multiple items in this case, in this evidence, and the item number 1, which is a swab from the broken beer bottle spout, is contained in this container.
Okay. Explain to us how you started your analysis.
Again, I start by a visual examination of the packaging to make sure it's intact.
After the
And-
initial visual analysis.
And then I open up each package one by one, and this is conducted very similar to a medical exam. I wear a lab coat that's disposable, I wear a mask when practicable, and I wear gloves, which are latex or nitrile, and that's done in order to try to protect the integrity of the evidence. I want to make sure I don't contaminate it with other items in the case. I also want to make sure I don't contaminate it with my DNA. And to that end, each item is examined one at a time, where they're opened, inventoried, described, and photographed, if applicable, and then a portion of that sample is then taken and placed into a tube for DNA extraction. Once the examination of a particular item is completed, I clean the work area and then move on to the next item until the last item is examined.
Before you explain to us what DNA extraction is, please explain to us what DNA is.
DNA stands for deoxyribonucleic acid, and in simplest terms, it's a chemical that exists in the nucleus of a cell. And this chemical is made up of A, T, C, and G. That stands for adenine, cytosine, guanine, and thymine. And depending on how these chemicals are strung together will determine whether or not we're a plant or an animal or a human. And each person on Earth, every person on Earth has DNA that's unique to them, with the exception of one group, and that's identical twins. Identical twins happen to have the same genetic makeup. But with the exception of identical twins, no two people on the planet are expected to have the same DNA. But there are vast similarities between people. In fact, over 99.9% of people's DNA will only differ by about one base pair per 1,000. And each person has about 6 billion base pairs in a single cell.
Okay, I'm sorry.
And so as an examiner, I don't examine the entire DNA makeup. I happen to examine 15 genetic markers using a kit known as Identifier Plus. And that's a commercially available kit that's used for paternity testing and forensic testing. And that's made available to forensic examiners throughout the country as well as throughout the world for the purposes of obtaining a DNA profile at 15 genetic locations.
And Mr. Comer, can you also please explain to us what DNA extraction is?
DNA extraction is a method for purifying the DNA. I mentioned before that the DNA is found in the nucleus, and in order to analyze the DNA, it has to be removed from the cell, which is made up of proteins and lipids. And the proteins and lipids that make up the cell have to be removed through a process of extraction.
Did you do anything else during your analysis of item G8 that I haven't asked you about yet?
Aside from developing the profile.
Okay, so we talked about, and you identified, and I just want to show you again, State Exhibit 21. And I'm going to ask you, did you analyze item G8 and compare it to what's listed in State 21, and on your report that's G87 and G87?
Yes, G87 and G88 are the item numbers that came to me from the submitting agency, and I analyzed G87, which was identified as the buccal swab from the left side cheek of Demetrius. I'm sorry. Actually, it's Demetrius Elder. It's
Okay.
spelled Demetriuselder.
Okay. Now, you told us that you did the analysis and you did the comparison.
Yes.
What was your result?
The DNA profile obtained from the beer bottle spout indicated a male profile. And I know this because there's a marker within the kit that can determine the gender or the sex of a person. And it indicated the source was coming from one person, and Demetrius Elder happened to match that profile.
And you just said another word, source. What does that mean to us when you're explaining to us your analysis and your comparison in this case?
In this case, there is a statistical calculation that was performed. The statistics are based on population frequency data, and I use the database available by the Federal Bureau of Investigations. And within it, by doing a calculation known as the product rule, I was able to give an estimate to see how rare or how common the DNA from the beer bottle is. And based on the rarity of this profile and the fact that Mr. Elder matched it, I concluded that within reasonable scientific certainty and absent of an identical twin, he is the source of the DNA from that sample.
Okay, and what is the, well, you told us you did a calculation, so
Yes.
what was the result of the calculation?
If I can look through my case record real quick.
If referring to your case record and reports will refresh your recollection, yes.
Yes, please. The calculation is performed analyzing 4 different population groups. And the reason we're using 4 different population groups is because the hypothesis is this sample did not originate from Mr. Elder. Therefore, we want to know, well, how often could we expect to see this profile within the general population if it did not originate from Mr. Elder? And using a population of Caucasians, African Americans, Southeastern Hispanics, which are predominantly from the state of Florida, and Southwestern Hispanics, which are predominantly from the state of Texas, the statistical odds were 1 in 104 quadrillion. And what that means is if we go a million, billion, trillion, quadrillion, that's where we get the 104 quadrillion from. So it's an astronomical number that exceeds the world population by about 5 orders of magnitude. So it's an extremely rare number. So the chances of finding someone else in the population, if the DNA profile did not originate from Mr. Elder, is approximately 1 in 104 quadrillion.
Okay, Mr. Comar, so the analysis you conducted on item G8 to item G87 with reasonable scientific certainty is who is the source of the DNA?
Based on our protocols at that time, yes. I concluded that absent of an identical twin, I concluded he is the source of the DNA from that sample.
Thank you. No further questions.
Counsel, are you going to be done in 12 minutes?
I'm gonna try.
If you're not, we're stopping at 4:45. We'll come back tomorrow. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Now, you're not able to determine from where on Mr. Elder this DNA came from, correct?
No, I cannot. The DNA is going to be the same throughout the person's body.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. That's enough. Sorry. So you can't tell if it was because he touched it with his hand, correct?
That's correct. I
Okay.
cannot.
And you mentioned earlier something about touch DNA. Touch DNA is when you touch something, you may leave your DNA on it, correct?
Yes, and that's because we have DNA in our sweat glands, and the cells that they're excreted from our hands, that's why it's described as touch DNA. The DNA can transfer from a person's hand to an object.
Okay. And if you were to actually touch another object that contains DNA, like another person, you could pick up their DNA by touch also, correct?
That would be speculation. It depends on the nature of the contact and other factors as to the cleanliness of the person's skin and how much they shed in terms
Right.
of cells.
But it's possible, correct?
There is a possibility.
Okay. And if you touch something and pick up DNA and then touch something else, it's possible to transfer it to that other thing, correct?
Again, it depends on the circumstances. Usually casual contact, it's not really, it may or may not be possible. It all depends on, again, the amount of cells we're talking about and the nature of the contact.
Okay. Now, because it is possible to transfer DNA, that's why you would change gloves anytime you would touch one specimen and then move on to another one, correct?
It's done, yes, and it's also primarily done to protect the evidence from me. I want to make sure I don't contaminate it as I'm handling it.
So would you ever pick up one item of evidence with gloves and then put it down and pick up another item of evidence with those same gloves?
If they're not from the same location, I try to avoid that
Okay.
for the same reasons you described.
Okay. Now, you also can't tell if that DNA from the beer bottle spout came from saliva, correct?
I cannot. No, I cannot.
Okay. You're not able to determine how long the DNA was placed there, how long ago?
Depending on the environmental conditions, I cannot tell. The DNA is kept in a cool, dry location. It potentially can persist for a long time. It could persist for years. However, if it's left out in the environment for a short period of time, exposed to moisture or sunlight, it could degrade rapidly.
Okay, but it could have been there from 2 days ago, or 2 days prior, correct?
I don't know where the beer bottle was found. I don't know where it was recovered from, but again, it can range. But I can't tell how long it's been there.
Right, you can't tell, okay. And it's possible to touch something and not leave any DNA on it, correct?
Yes, that's true.
Okay. Now, you were given a swab from the spout of the beer bottle, correct?
Honestly, that's how it was described. I don't know how it was collected.
Okay. You were not given swabs from any other portion of the bottle, correct?
I only received one swab identified as coming from the spout of the beer bottle.
Okay, Judge, may I have a moment?
Yep.
Don't have any more questions.
Any redirect?
One question. Mr. Kumar, do you have evidence in this case of transferred DNA?
I'm not sure if I understand your question.
You were asked about transferred DNA, cross-contamination. Do you have any evidence in this case regarding the item I asked you about, that there was transferred DNA?
Honestly, I can't tell. All I can tell you is I obtained a DNA profile from the beer bottle that indicated that it was coming from a male and it was coming from one person, and that happened to match Mr. Elder.
Thank you. No further questions.
Thank you.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Have a good day.
You too.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you what our future plans are before I let you go. On Thursday, I would like you here at 8:45. I want to start at 9 o'clock Thursday morning. On Friday, nothing I can do about the morning. Friday is my big day, and the morning, the whole morning is gone on Friday. That's why I've taken care to eliminate Thursday morning, bring you in early Thursday. But if we do go Friday, it would not be until 1:30 on Friday, and I just want to let you know that so you can make your plans accordingly. Again, just to remind you, don't talk about the Ks, don't go on the internet, et cetera, et cetera. Anything else? Anything else? No, I guess that's it. So we will see you Thursday morning, 8:45.